All right, so thanks, Natalie, for being on this call today. So excited to do this. Just to give some context to people who are listening to this, give us a little bit of background. What is it that you do? What is it that your company does?
Yeah, my company is called Impetus Digital. We focus exclusively on creating online advisory boards and working committees, but in terms of the why or the mission or vision behind the company is we really are brokers for creating authentic partnerships between the companies that work for us and their stakeholders. And again, advisory boards and working groups is a mechanism in which we do that, and we have an online software to do that.
Excellent, perfect. Thanks for that. So now we got a little bit of context. Now, there was a time before we started working together. Can you dive a little bit into that? Like, what was the situation there? What was some of the challenges that also prompted you that, to work together?
Absolutely. My company had really been spending a lot of time in the last couple of months really scaling up. Part of that process was a lot of sort of internal infrastructure development. So getting the right protocols, processes, people set up, even creating our own proprietary software. And so over those past couple of years, certainly we were growing, but not at the speed that we wanted to. With all of that set up, it was now an opportunity to sort of ask, we have this great company, this great offering, this great service. How do we get this out to the world? How do people know that we are the experts in doing online advisory boards and working groups? And really struggling with that next phase, you call that sort of the no man's land, or as you're sort of starting or building a company, and that really is what brought me to you.
Okay, so it was about building thought leadership and getting the message out there and becoming known as that thought leader in this very specific field, and then kind of like building the company and growing it with the vision as the lead of all of this.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
And I think just to add to that as well too, I mean, one of the struggles that every company has is, in the big entire potential customer universe, how do you target those people? What mechanisms do you do that? And so that really was the overarching question that brought me to the table.
Perfect. And then we started working together, and there was some really interesting things that happened since then. So can you elaborate on a couple of those stories, especially one of them with the one that happened at the conference, but also the others that you just recently talked about?
Yeah, so just to spend a couple of minutes really in terms of the process. And so sometimes these things can happen overnight. Sometimes they take a while. I think in our particular situation, I would literally have to say that these were quantum leaps. I really believe in the idea that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I live in Canada, you live you live in Europe, and so there's a reason why I gravitated to you, and that was because of your authentic email style, which I thought was very attractive, and I wanted to learn how to relate to people that way, and so I reached out to you. In that process, at the end of the day, what's really important for people to understand is you have all the answers yourself. And I think really what you are, Daniel, is a conduit, the bridge, if you will, of allowing one to enter into themselves to look within and to find their answers. I had all the answers, I just needed to know that. And so I think really what I saw this was really great, smart questions from you that really got me to stop and take a think. A lot of times we're always running around in a frenzy day to day of not stopping to actually think and reflect on what it is that we need to do. And so I think it was through the thoughtful, very penetrating questions and me taking the time to think this through, both in dialogue with you and really, I thought some really fun homework that really got me to a place of answering some of these questions. And during that process, as I was mentioning earlier, the quantum leap, it literally was almost like a compulsion that happened to me. I think it was, there were some exercises we were doing around what are you filling your days with? What are you focusing your time on? And what ultimately is something that energizes you, that you want to be doing? And really, what is your mission, which quite frankly is reflective of what the company mission is. From there, it became almost like an obsession, because I suddenly became incredibly clear, just like overnight, of what it is, all the culmination of experience, readings, everything that I've actually kind of learned and thought about over literally years and decades, kind of came to a point of inflection of this is it. So inspired that, quite frankly, I ended up writing a book over a 2-week period that summarized the incredible explosion of ideas that happened. From there came the crystallization of the company vision. And so very high level, this is what we are. This is our why. And really also being able to speak with you of how that funneled down to the company, the inner workings, the service. And it all just suddenly became very clear. So in my traditional ways of selling, it was a typical, this is kind of what we do, what we offer, and this is work for you today. Suddenly the conversation changed. It became what I call an uplifter conversation. It became an opportunity for me to reach for the stars for that person when I listened intently to what they were trying to do. And quite frankly, most people will work and function when you're speaking to them about their world, like with blinders on. This is what I'm doing, this is what my brand plan is, this is my strategy, this is what I need to do, this is my budget. And then when you take an opportunity to say, well, what if? And how about this really obscure thing that you've never thought about before? Wouldn't that be a wonderful place to be in? And getting them to a place that they know that they could go to, but they've never really personally visualized for themselves. And so I recently had a conversation with an individual who is very brand specific, very blinder, and left the conversation fairly energized and actually thanked me for having a very inspirational discussion. Literally 2 days later, received a phone call saying, I really think that you can help us do some amazing things. And I, was super energized, super excited, wanted to tie things up very quickly. And as we all know, there's procurement processes and it takes time and you need to get buy-in and other people to make decisions. But a decision almost crystallized in his own mind. He was able to very clearly see how the bits and pieces were going to work together. And literally within a few weeks, closed a deal and also got one of their colleagues also to want to work with our company, literally within 2 weeks. In that same vein, these conversations, these visionary conversations have also been taking place with people that, number one, I never in a million years would have imagined speaking with or even thought I'd be interested in speaking with, because they didn't have a direct correlation of what I was selling. And it was very much in this high-level place, CEOs of patient organizations and policy organizations. I shared my vision, and I kind of did this as a pilot and was incredibly shocked to see the response and how intrigued they were with the idea. And they responded and wanted to speak with me. And this is the thing that's really interesting. I started having these conversations at this very visionary level with the intention of doing something very visionary, and I do have some very visionary ideas. And then finding out more about their ideas and issues, the conversation somehow translated into the offering of my company. And that really was a shock to me. So I just wanted to say that this is a magical thing. It's a quantum leap. It is actually a leap of faith, and it is also very much using the law of attraction. And I'm saying this in a very serious way, but I will have to say that underneath there's an incredible amount of excitement and energizing momentum that, part of it is a bit disbelief because it just happened to me so quickly. And so I will have to say, Daniel, that you were definitely the instigator of this process. It's been explosive. But it is incredibly real.
I absolutely love that. Thanks for sharing those stories. And, I remember when we had the first conversation and then I gave you the first exercise, basically talking about the goals and everything. And that was incredibly measurement driven, very, very, very measurement driven. And since then, which has completely expanded. And also the level of your energy is completely different from when we talked the first time, which was all about 50% of growth and this and that and that, towards now when you said it perfectly. Every conversation that we have now as well as a visionary conversation, and everything is driven by that passion and that energy for creating that bigger vision. And I think that's why I mean, what you're putting that energy out there, and you're in every single conversation, every connection, you're putting that energy. And I think that's why that, you know, all of these beautiful things are showing up. Now, I just want to ask you one more question. If you try to pinpoint what sort of the difference will be, like, what would be that screw that you turn? What would be that one difference, or a couple of maybe small differences that you changed that made all of this possible? What would you pinpoint?
I think it was really taking time to stop and think. And as I was mentioning earlier, we all have the answers. We're just sometimes too busy to see it. And so it is, you know, you can call it spiritually, you know, being in awareness, or, you know, stopping and being in the moment, and really connecting. That was really, I think, fundamentally the twist that made that. And I encourage any of your other viewers and potential clients, or your clients, to, if they haven't already done that, to really do that in a very authentic way. That is where you will find your spark. And I think in that difference, I also spent a lot of time, as you've mentioned, in a very directive, how do I make my marketing, and what's my tactical, and, you know, how is this all, you know, how do I get my next salesperson? And that's not really part of the equation anymore. For me, it's how do I stay inspired? How do I stay on that energy level? Because all of that stuff will come from there. And I think that's such an interesting key. And I think if you're not there, it's difficult to understand it. But that really is where my reality is today.
Excellent. Perfect. Now, I just want to ask you, because I always measure 3 ROIs: financial, emotional, and spiritual. For me, they are both equally, or all equally important. Now, we talked a little bit about the financial side, like what happened in terms of deal flow and everything. What about the emotional side? What for you, are the spiritual and emotional side, or both of them together? What would you say, what was some of the main thing that changed before we started working towards now? What are some of the major differences?
Well, I do want to say that, you know, the financial impact was huge, because, you know, again, some of the deals that we're dropping are not, they definitely have grown, and they're more substantial. Let's put it that way. They have a lot of legs, and there's also a lot of organic growth that goes on within the organizations we're working with. But in terms of the spiritual and emotional, another powerful exercise we did that really everything kind of spurred and went on to the next was really the reflection of time. This is something I continue to struggle with, but at time, I have a scarcity mentality around time. Time is something I have to protect. You know, lots of people have different, you know, ways that they deal with scarcity, but mine really has to do with time. And so when I was challenged about turning time on its head, or how to leverage time, it really put things into a different perspective for me. Where am I investing my time? So I really have to say it is like night and day. It is very intentional. I start the day with absolutely understanding about what it is that I'm going to achieve, and what is it that I'm going to consider to be success, so I have a sense of closure. And in addition, I've now added, how am I going to feel at the end of it? So all of those are my success metrics, and they're incredibly important to me, so that I now feel like I'm not running ragged all the time, that I didn't really complete anything, or nothing was done, or so there always has to have, you know, everything needs to end with a period. It has to have closure. There has to be a celebration when you reach certain milestones, and you know, learning to reward myself with a variety of different things I'm learning to do. And so it's really, the thing that I've really captured is, how am I feeling? And I've actually been doing this every moment. I did this before I spoke with you. I'm going to do this after I speak with you. It's almost like segment intention. It's just being very aware of every moment I'm spending.
Phenomenal. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Any last thoughts you want to share before we finish this?
No, I just want to say, Daniel, that you I'm so happy I attracted you into my life. You have a wonderful skill and a gift, and I really hope for others that they will also be able to make that connection and to make the dramatic quantum leap in their own life, in their own business.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Natalie. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Daniel. You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.